Hello, everyone, and welcome to an all new Deep Cuts Live. I'm your host, Antoine Reid, and today we have a very special guest with us. We have Cynn Coburn, who is the owner of Dissident Cigars. So she's someone that I've followed on Instagram, and I'm pretty sure that maybe if you've searched for her, you've come across this video. You probably have also come across her on Instagram, and very interesting brand with Dissident. And I just want to learn more about her and also learn more about Dissident. So that will be the conversation for today. So let me bring on our guests. Cynn, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. It's like I said, I've been following you and your husband on Instagram for a while. And then I think like most people, all of a sudden, it's like one day is like, I learned that you were the new owners of Dissident. So I was like, oh, it's like
That's kind of how I was too.
I was like, what? It's like, whoa! It's like one of those like surprising moments and stuff because I heard of Dissident and like I said, and I had followed it as well. So I was like surprised all of a sudden that and I know in other interviews you said too, like one of the mysteries is like why was it available? You don't know what became of the past owner. It was this there, and you were in the right place, right time, and it kind of landed that you want to take over this brand, and you were like, yes.
Yeah, for sure. It was pretty crazy. Like, just like you said, just right place, right time. And, the brand fit really well. And, the way it sat really allows me to expand on it. It has a very basic platform and it's bold and it works really well. But like I said, it really opens the door to expand on art and to take it further. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. So where I always like to start at the beginning with deep cuts and with people's stories and figure out how did you get to where you are now. So before you came into the cigar industry, what were you doing, and then what kind of led to you landing where you are now?
Gosh, I've done so much. So and it really had nothing to do with cigars for much of my life. It actually was more about helping people. I spent a number of years running an at-risk boys' home. Essentially, it was youth from 12 to 18. They had to live in my facility for up to 2 years while we rehabilitated them and made sure that they were safe enough to go back out in society. So I dealt with that. Again, they were high risk. So some of them were very physically violent and court ordered to live there. So I was the one in the thick of it and, loving them through it. And worked with the elderly for a while, both through a law firm and through elderly care. I've really touched base on, anywhere from kids to adults and, just making sure that everybody feels loved. And then my husband, motivational speaker, he did that for 20 years and I jumped along in that with him for the last couple years. So did that. And then we went on vacation in Nicaragua just to explore the Oveja Negra factory and fell in love with Esteli. Ended up coming down to San Juan del Sur, which is where James and Angela live, the owners of Oveja Negra, and fell in love with this little town. And we decided we wanted to take the kids to vacation here. And then COVID hit. So, everything shut down, obviously. And the kids out of nowhere, like did their research on Nicaragua. And they were like, why don't we just move there? We were like, what? Like, you really want to move to Nicaragua? So we had them do more research for about a month, like just independent research on their own without being persuaded with anything. And they still came back and they said they wanted to do it. And we, long story short, we sold everything, our vehicles, our personal belongings, everything, and just came to Nicaragua with a suitcase each and our pets and started a new life here, just loving cigars, which is funny because in Nicaragua, it's very hard to actually get cigars because they're all exported. So we really don't have a lot of cigars to choose from here. But thankfully, being friends with James and Angela, we were able to get some Black Label, Black Work cigars from them. But, it was more about the culture for us and being around this lifestyle that we fell in love with. And before we knew it, like you said, Dissident became available and they asked us if we wanted to buy it. And it took about a week and figuring out whether this is something we wanted to do, because as all you cigar lovers know, this is not a cheap industry to be in. And we ultimately decided, yeah, we're going to do it. So we jumped on board with that. And we put motivational speaking to the side on a large scale, because it used to be up to like 15,000 people that mainly Josh would speak to, and sometimes myself. And that's very it's very exhausting, because motivational speaking, you're speaking in front of all these people, but it doesn't end when you walk off the stage, because now people know who you are and they want to message you, because so many people go through so much. And so yeah, we decided to take a break from that, but we didn't really stop doing that, because we're just doing it in the cigar world now. I get to travel and do dissident stuff and still help people just through cigar lounges, and honestly on a more intimate one-on-one level, which to me is awesome. So yeah, so very long story turned into short. That's how we're here and how we got into dissident.
Well, I was listening to some of your other interviews that you've done basically this year, and I know, and one was really interesting because you were talking about like embracing negativity sometimes, and how some people, like, they try to act like nothing bad or all these negative things, like they just trying to ignore it as much as they could. And you were talking about the importance of sometimes acknowledging it in your life and then embracing it. Like, could you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's such, even in a business sense, it's such an important thing to acknowledge and talk about that doesn't get spoken about a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people think that like the negative is negative and it's such a bad thing and we need to ignore it and put band-aids on it. And that's not life. Life is very much always about the negative as well. And how can we grow to the fullest extent if we don't have errors in our life and negative things that have happened, which honestly, in my opinion, isn't negative. Nothing has been negative. I mean, and I've been through so much, especially with abuse and sexual assault and all that, and being homeless. And, if I chose the path to say that was negative, then I would have fell down this deep, dark hole. And I always did to some degree. I think everybody does, things hurt and that's okay. But what's really there is value and lessons and tools, and it's in everything. It's literally in everything, from death to, to heartache, to separations, to homelessness, to whatever you go through, there's always a lesson in that. And to me, that's not negativity, that's positivity, because we need those lessons and we can't ignore them. They're just as valuable. So we have to take those, we have to learn from them, and we just have to move forward. And that's how we become the 110% versions of ourselves, not the 80% versions of ourselves. And 110% does not mean perfect. It means that you're real. You are so real, and you choose to live your life to the fullest and be happy no matter what happens and what's thrown on your plate. And I am a testament to so many things happening and so many things being thrown on my plate. And I'm still here and I'm still smiling and I still find the positive in life and good things still happen. And, so yeah, the negativity is definitely important. And life is all about perspective, because you can say, oh, well, my life is shit. Or you can say, I'm learning right now, and I'm going to learn how to get through this. And then I'm going to be a better person for it as well. So that's really what I have focused on. And it's helped me a lot, because if I didn't look at life that way, I don't know that I would be here. And I don't know that I'd have the ability to help other people either, because I have gone through a lot, and that could have exhausted me so much that I didn't want to help anybody else, but I've chosen to take the path of, I've gone through a lot and I'm going to help people, because I have the ability to help people now, because I have so many things on my plate that I've gone through. So yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's just as important as all the good things in your life. And we cannot ignore them. I mean, the most successful people in business have failed. They've failed. They've had accidents. They've stumbled. They've had to learn new things. They've lost money. It can go on and on and on. And that's what should happen. That is exactly what should happen, because how can you truly be a good, humble person if you haven't been there and you haven't had to dust your knees off,
Yeah, definitely. And I've been listening to this audiobook. It was called River of Time by Naomi Judd. because I was
Oh,
really
okay.
interested in her life after what happened in April. And when her daughter said, that she succumbed to mental illness. And, I'm listening to this book and she's basically saying everything that you just said, so much had happened to her. And she said, she had this public persona of being like the happy, chippy, entertainer that was always, had to lighten the crowd and get everybody riled up. And then in private, all these things were happening to her. She had all this very troubling childhood. And long story short, it took her to embrace that negativity that was able to get her at least, a couple more years, because she said she was in this very dark place, and she was in a dark place when she was ignoring that negativity in her life and trying to act like it didn't exist. So
Yeah. I mean, fame is hard. I'm no superstar. I'm nowhere near, I'm a fraction of what other people are. Same with Josh, but it's there enough to where I understand putting on a smile when you don't always feel good and having to be quote unquote on because that's your job. And it doesn't matter what's going on the sidelines. You have to put on that smile because to you, this may be another day. To somebody else, they've been waiting so long for this moment, and you're everything to them. And I think the issue is that most people don't want to talk about the negative. They hide behind that wall and they have these secrets. And I know how that feels. And so I choose not to do that. If I go through something, whether it's the death of an animal or I'm struggling because, whatever it may be, you're going to hear about it too. Because if I just put it out there, you're going to see how I cope with it as well. And you're going to know that, okay, like, her life's a little bit tough right now, but look at her. She's still standing and she's still pushing through and she is smiling. And that smile is genuine, because I'm not about to be fake. And because I know what that does to myself and I know what that does to others as well. So I think it's vital for me to be as real as possible out there, no matter what I'm doing. And if I'm going through hardships, well, if I'm going to a business trip and I have an event, we're going to talk about it, and I'm going to talk about how I'm pushing through and hopefully I still end up helping somebody, during that event. So yeah, I know how important it is to be real, because that can be a deep, dark place if we don't do that and we don't expose ourselves, which ultimately to some people, that's very scary to expose yourself. That's fearful. You don't want to be looked down upon and judged. But ultimately, I don't care if I'm judged. If I'm judged, you don't need to be in my life anyway. It narrows down the people that should be in my life. So
yeah, and it just kind of brings me back to something that Michael Herklotz said to me a long time ago about, Instagram being so curated. People only see what you want them to see, which is usually the good stuff and the fun stuff. And then they don't get to, they don't always get to see like the boring stuff because that doesn't make for a good picture or a good video. So you have
mhm.
to, I think and I've seen your Instagram, like you do share everything, which is good because it gives a more complete picture. And I think it shows people that, you can be sad one day and then you can be happy another day. It's not all just like one emotion. It kind of gives the impression that, everything is
Absolutely.
perfect. So
Yep. Sorry about that. My dogs are seeing something. I'm outside, but
it was fine.
sorry. But
Um,
yeah, absolutely. It's never been about growing and having this, massive platform. It's been about being real. And if you follow me for that, well, then welcome aboard, but I'm not here to have thousands and thousands of people on my side just because I'm a content creator, that doesn't pay my bills. So
right. Um, Getting back to Dissident, I mean, it's such an interesting name. It's something I haven't heard a lot in different interviews that you've done, has been just the name of the cigar brand, because you hear Dissident and I think it is for different people, it might conjure up different things. So to you, like if somebody were to ask you to define Dissident as it relates to, your brand and kind of like the vibe and attitude that you hope the brand exudes to the world, how would you describe Dissident?
well, people, and this is a conversation that Josh and I have had to have because exactly like you said, dissident can be, it can mean a lot of things to people. And ultimately, your first thought can be that of a negative one. And, you know, to a lot of people that means opposition and in a negative way, and, you know, starting wars and hate and all this, but it's not. It's about being true to yourself and standing up for what you believe in. And it's about, you know, in our eyes, acceptance, because obviously that's something that the world struggles with. And so that's all, you know, is acceptance and love and pushing through and positivity. You know, that's all the things that needs to be shown more. So that's on your soapbox and that's really, really what we're focusing on, is showing dissident in a positive light, and that it's okay to be yourself, and it's okay to be one of a kind. You don't need to fit in, you know, in this cookie cutter world. You know, it's actually awesome to be yourself, and, you know, people will love you for that in the end. I mean, look at the way I look, and I have yet to come across someone that's been a complete turd to me. You know, like, everyone's been
Right.
great. In the end, when you're a good person, that's what matters, you know?
So I'm always interested about the transition that people make to from being just a consumer of a product to being a brand owner of that product. So in terms of cigars, what was that transition for you and Josh like, going from being consumers of cigars and, you know, just casually smoking and whenever you want to and not having to worry about the accounting and all that kind of stuff, to suddenly being brand owners? Like, was that a hard learning curve? Was it easy? Was it not easy? What
Um,
was it like?
it's not, I wouldn't say hard. I know that, you know, there's more time. There's been days where it's been a little bit more overwhelming than others, but everything has been with time, you know? So when we first acquired it, it was more like a, whoa, okay, this is happening. But, you know, what has been so great about it is it was already established. So there was already accounts there. There wasn't really stock or anything. So that was a huge thing that we had to immediately start on. Was so I should back up a little bit. It's had its blessings and it's had its downfalls. The blessings are, it was already an established brand. The downfalls were, it was an already established brand. So it was great because we have these accounts, but the downfall was, it wasn't a slow walk and learn, it was a run and learn. So that was probably the hardest part for us, is there was no time to stumble and fall. You know, if there was mistakes made, it was immediately figuring it out and, you know, smoothing things over, which thankfully there really hasn't been much of that. But, you know, there's been some accounts lost prior to us that we're trying to get back. And thankfully, a lot of the stock that was missing, that was, you know, it's already back, you know, because that was the number one thing that we did. And as far as money, you know, thankfully we have other jobs, and if we didn't have that, I don't know that we would have jumped into this, only because we're older, we have kids, you know, we have mouths to feed. But thankfully, because we have other jobs, we chose to look at this like, we know we're going to lose money and this is going to suck for a while. And it does suck, you know, but we know that through being genuine and good people and having great cigars, that's what's going to matter in the end. And we're just going to continue to grow. So it can be stressful at times right now because, I mean, we're in the thick of it. We're at the start of it, but I mean, we've already seen some numbers change, and, you know, people are excited about the brand. Everybody knows Dissident Cigars are very good. They're made very well because they're coming out of Oa Negra. So it's just a matter of getting it there and shining the light on it that it absolutely deserves, you know. And I think we made a good choice in not changing anything, because everything was wonderful to begin with. The only thing that did end up changing was the soapbox. It went from Modifina to Sumatra, and that wasn't our choice. That was just due to availability. So that's been the only thing that's changed. And honestly, I think it changed for the better. I love the way the soapbox tastes now. So yeah, it was taking these small batch cigars, putting them into the core line. So now the core line is bigger, and now just focusing on getting more cigars out there, doing limited editions. I'm going to be creating Connecticut soon, and then doing these awesome lines of cigars that are going to be limited edition. And we really hope that people appreciate that and they see Dissident for what it is and what it deserves to be. So, to answer your question shortly, it's had its ups and downs, but mostly ups. And like I said earlier, it's all about perspective. We can let this eat us alive. We can let it really get to us, or we can, say this is our time for work, and then we put a different hat on and we enjoy life on the weekends, and we do things with our kids at night. And that downtime is just as important to being a successful business as it is hustling and being in the thick of it and working extremely hard. People tend to forget that we need to love ourselves too. And being a truly successful business owner also means taking care of yourself and giving yourself downtime and thanking yourself for all the hard work that you've done. So we're definitely doing that as well to keep our sanity. So
Definitely. I just feel like most of the conversations I've had is, people don't get into cigars thinking they're going to make a ton of money. And if they do, they usually don't last that long in the industry because it's pretty hard to. So it turns into a passion product and something that they really enjoy.
Yeah.
Is that the case with you and Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely not about the money for us at all. And we've never been that way. It's about making relationships and being able to break bread with people and learning. We always talk about being the lowest person on the totem pole. And one of the things we love the most about the cigar industry is honestly from sitting in cigar lounges and talking to people that we would normally never talk to. And the fact that everybody just gets along. You can be a doctor and a lawyer and a garbage man, and they're all three talking and exchanging ideas and great stories about life. And I loved that. I loved that about this industry. And, I've heard negative things, and, I've heard people say, oh, this and that. And, Josh and I are like, man, we never hear that. Why? Because we don't surround ourselves by that. And if we think something's going to happen, well, we just turn off the computer and live our life. Like we don't have TV. We don't spend hours on the internet or anything. We just live our life as humble people, and we just keep going and keep moving forward. And, we love all the other brand owners. We think everybody's amazing. And in my opinion, you have to love everybody in this industry. We're all in this together, because if this goes, we all go, so we're in the same fight. So it's important to us to just establish relationships and not worry about the money. We've never been those type of people. Like, we live in a third world country, and, we're fine with it. It may from the outside look like we have this, awesome life, but no one realizes when you take cold showers and you're, washing dishes with cold water and have a rusted out fridge. And, like there's things that go on behind the scenes that people don't realize, that, the way we choose to live our life. And ultimately that's because we really focus on being humble and always being aware of what we have. And I know that just the way I am, if somebody is struggling, I will be the first one to help them. So, and I've always been that way. I'm like, if they're struggling, I will struggle with them, because it's better than them struggling by themselves. So if I see someone that's in a financial downfall, I'm going to do what I can to help them. If a family just went through, a house fire, I'm going to be helping them. If there's, our SOS, the animal nonprofit here, we are constantly giving back to them. We just see opportunity in so many different places, and that's really what we focus on. And I'm a true believer that if you're a selfless person that gives on a humble level, not for anything in return, the universe has a way of returning the favor in some way, no matter what that is. And so I feel that we live a very blessed life, and that doesn't mean monetarily. It's just in general. We've been very fortunate to meet a lot of older people. And honestly, the past few years, I give that a lot to cigars and who we've met through cigars. So, I mean, it's expanding now because we own this cigar company. So that's very exciting to me.
Yeah, and I wanted to read you this comment that came on through Facebook. It's from Nicole. She says, "My husband has been through a lot, losing his young wife from breast cancer and his dad at the same time. He is sitting here smoking a block for being able to get out of the house for the first time in 2 years due to suffering from agoraphobia. His hard work, along with Joshua Coburn, he is making fantastic progress and learning trauma is not a death sentence. He wanted me to post this as well as we are listening, and he does not have Facebook. So I just wanted to make sure that you got that comment because it kind of goes along with what you were just saying, and how cigars also kind of help bring people together and can, just add to people's lives in a positive way that you don't always get to see. Like when I first came into the industry, I had a completely different perspective on cigars and stuff than what I do now 10 years, into it. So,
I truly appreciate that, just the fact that he brought up, going through traumas and stuff. And, it's been years since I've gone through the abuse that I have, and I still struggle at times, just because, I'm this positive, happy person does not mean that I don't struggle, like that's real life. Like there are still times when I struggle, and that is absolutely okay. And the fact that he can pick up a cigar and just relax, and he has found ways to push through that is so awesome. And if we're just that tiny little part of that, man, does that make me feel good. So thank you. I truly, truly appreciate that.
Exactly. You were talking about Nicaragua, and I thought it was interesting when I was listening to your past interviews, and you were talking about how if you live in Nicaragua, it's so hard for you to get cigars, which is not something that most people think about because here in the U.S. we're told like, Nicaragua's, I think is, according to the Cigar Association of America, is like the top cigar, but it's like, because we're here in America and, so what is it having moved to Nicaragua? What can you tell us about living there and the cigar culture in general there in Nicaragua? What is it like?
Cigar culture is not a thing. Like, it's funny because if we go out to eat in town, like because this is such a small community, like a lot of the owners know who we are, and half the time we won't even bring cigars, but they will automatically bring out like an ashtray and a lighter because they know that we smoke, and it cracks us up every time. But I love it because the people here are so wonderful, and they try so hard to remember who you are, and like your story and what you like. And it is so awesome. And like I said, there's not a cigar culture here. There's really not. Most people do not smoke cigars. There are 2 places in town that sell cigars, and they're really not known. It's not easy to get much of anything. I mean, Oveja Negra cigars are in the one, are in both of them actually. And I think Roma Craft is in another, because that gentleman lives out here. So, even though cigars are from here, that's not a culture. Many of the places, like the tobacco's grown about 4 or 5 hours north of here. And where that plays in is, the Nicaraguans have been a part of the cigar industry for generations. And that's where that plays in, like even at Oveja Negra, the people that are rolling the cigars and bunching them, they're 3rd generation, 2nd generation, that's been passed down forever in their families. And that's a vital way of life for them. And I think, what a lot of people fail to see, and this is such a big deal, for the people that are trying to get cigars out of here and want to put in all these laws and stuff, they fail to see little things like, if you go to a tobacco field here, an entire community is waiting for, say, the Seco leaves to be ready, because you can't just have 1, 2 employees going through that field and picking those leaves. You have to have an entire community come together at the same time for the next couple days and pick those leaves when they are ready. That's how you get good quality cigars, is by getting good quality leaves. And these people, these communities wait the entire year just for these tobacco crops to be ready. And that feeds their family for so long. So, and that's what Nicaragua is known for. Obviously, they're tobacco fields and they're wonderful. It's prime soil. They're in these beautiful valleys surrounded by the mountains, which is exactly what tobacco needs. And these families thrive off of that. That is how they make a living. So that to me is really, really awesome, because you are literally bringing jobs to families. And without cigar smokers, there's not going to be tobacco fields. And then that's going to go away. And, we have to fight for that. We have to show people that, this is actually a wonderful thing. And, people can hate that don't understand cigars, but I'm going to be right there fighting for it and showing people why it's so valuable. And not only that, we all have ways to cope with depression and anxiety and the things that we go through. And for a lot of people that are into cigars, it is 100% smoking a cigar. It is taking that hour to yourself and just relaxing. It's talking to your friends. It's, sitting on your porch and just going over things in your head. And that is so, so, so important. And, one thing I learned from being here is Nicaraguans take the time to do that, whether they smoke cigars or not. Man, 4 o'clock comes around and there is no more work. They are on the streets partying, and they are grilling, and they're grilling for everybody around them, for their neighbors and their family. And every weekend is a party. And it is so awesome to see, because these people barely have anything and they don't care. They don't need everything. All they need is community and people in their life, people that show love and helping one another and getting by. They are absolutely happy with the little bit that they have. And I'm a firm believer that the more you have, the unhappier you are. And that is so true here. And I've never seen it more than moving to Nicaragua. So yeah, I mean, that so went off base, but
No, it's fine. No, I think it's always good to hear that stuff, because here in the US, I mean, we're so stuck in a bubble of everything going on here, and it gets heavy, and you don't have that outside perspective of what's going on in other countries and what life is in other countries. And
yeah.
even if you hear like Nicaragua, we don't hear about Nicaragua hardly at all. The most common people don't, unless you are in the cigar industry, then you might think about Nicaragua or hear about it a little bit more. So it's interesting to hear what life is like there. And I'm sure for you, coming from the United States and moving there, is probably jarring. Just like you said, it's a completely different mindset, but it sounds like it's a good mindset. Like once you kind of shake yourself out of that US American kind of, funk that we sometimes get in, and to see like a different way of living is probably kind of rejuvenating, I would think.
It absolutely is. Yeah. One of the first people we met, it was within a month or two of being here. It was a gentleman that worked at a little restaurant here in town. And he was like, man, all you Americans, you just seem like there's a lot of depression in America and a lot of anxiety and a lot of health issues. And he's like, why is that? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, we don't have that. We don't have time for that here. We don't have things. We're too busy working hard. And it like hit me like a ton of bricks. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so true. If you think about like how many celebrities kill themselves, and people think, well, why would they do that? They have everything. Well, because everything is nothing. It really is. These people are working hard for the little bit that they have. And ultimately, they don't have things to cling on to except for themselves and the people around them, the community. And they're happy because of it. They're not stuck in their house trying to enjoy these materialistic things. They're trying to, like Americans, they try to find joy in the next Mercedes and the next big house and the next thing, and having the greener yard and the perfect grass. And there's no grass here, man. People are growing gardens and food and, so it's been awesome. And it's been awesome to hear perspective from people within a country that have so little and are so happy. It's mind blowing, and it's really woken us up. And that's why we truly love to live here, because it keeps us where we feel we need to be on a mental level, just really appreciative for the life that we have, and always making sure that we're helping others and being kind and being mindful and aware of our surroundings at all times.
Getting back to the Oveja Negra connection, how did you uh, meet James and Angela, because I know I think before you became like the Dissident owner, you would see all these pictures of you hanging out with them, and I just thought it was like really interesting. So I'm always curious about connections and how people end up meeting these and making these connections. How did you meet them, and what have you learned from each of them? Because I don't think Angela sometimes gets enough credit for what she kind of brings into the business, just by herself. So
Yeah, yeah. I think
what did
both
you
of
kind of
them,
learn from each of them?
they and I know one thing they enjoy is to let the brand speak for itself. Um but how we met was honestly through social media. Before I knew about cigars, I had no idea what I was smoking. My first experience was walking into some weird convenience store thinking I was talking to somebody with knowledge that absolutely did not have knowledge in the end of cigars, and just handed me some random cigar. I have no idea what it was, but I do remember the first cigar I ever did have, that stuck with me was the Lawless from Oveja Negra. And the reason why I picked that was because of the artwork, because I felt like I was being heard through artwork in the cigar industry. And that was striking to me. Because obviously we all know there's not many brands that take that avenue when it comes to cigars. It's very much in a certain box, and they chose not to be in that box. So just through time, we just started talking to them, and we weren't sure if they had people that promoted them, or we didn't know anything about how that worked, but we just had conversation with them and ended up, like I said, doing that Oveja Negra tour and really connecting with them, and we connected with them just, prior to that as well, but it kind of just sealed the deal when we went to their factory. And, seeing like-minded people, and being around them is wonderful. And then when you move to a country when there's really nobody else like that, it makes a difference, so it's nice to be in a country where everything feels so unfamiliar in so many ways, and then you can meet up with friends that get they understand, and you can have good conversation. And so yeah, so that's kind of how that happened. Just they were excited when they found out that we wanted to move here. They accepted us with open arms, and we only live like 10 minutes from them, and that's just because we have to go up and down mountains. But truly, I can, if I looked hard enough, I can see their house from where we live. So yeah, it's just a matter of, I think coming together in a world where we're the oddballs. And I think that's really helped us all. And, as I said earlier, I think James and Angela both like to take the approach of letting the cigars speak for themselves, and James has always been the face of the brand, but Angela is equally there. She busts her ass just as hard. And, she's definitely the one that's present in the factory and giving the employees all the love that they very well. That's what keeps the wheels turning in that factory, is the fact that they pay so much attention to their employees, and they make sure that they're valued and appreciated. And, obviously we go there all the time due to Dissident, and we see it. We see the love, and we see the appreciation. And, when there's a birthday, there's a party, and they're all dancing, and they're all playing music. And when when it's Christmas, there's a Christmas tree up. And, it's just really, really awesome to see. So, Angela will show her face obviously at PCA. It's wonderful. And when they can both leave, she goes to the lounges with James and does events. And so it's really great to see when they're both able to get out. But, that's hard to do. It's very hard to do. I mean, they have children, we have kids. So it's not the easiest to leave at the same time. But when the stars align and they can get out together, it's awesome. It's awesome to have the rare opportunity to see them out, as I'm sure, people love, because it's not common to see them both. So.
And I know that I know some people think that, some brand owners just say, I want a cigar, and they leave it to somebody else to create. But I know that you are very hands-on. You create the blends. So how did you learn about the blending process? Because even me, like, I've gone to the Dominican Republic once or twice, and I remember them trying to get us to learn how to roll a cigar and how to blend, like, pick out different cigars. Pick out different tobaccos to like make our own special blend. and it was just like I can't even tell you now like how it works. So how did you learn that process? And like, what was the first cigar that you blended? Like, what was that process like?
Oh, well, it's absolutely still a process. I'm still in the infant stages of that. But what's wonderful is I have James to always lean on, because I can think that something smokes really well, and ultimately, he could say, I don't know. He knows by doing certain blends that, say, in 3 months it's actually going to turn this way, and I don't know if it's going to be as good as it is now, or so it's amazing that I have him to lean on. But the first cigar that I blended is actually the Molotov, and which is the limited edition that's going to be available to order at PCA. It
Let me
should be
show
done about a
people
month
what
after.
that. Let me show
What's
people.
that?
I said I'm going to actually show people while you're
Oh,
talking
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
what that
It's
looks like because
exciting because it's very different. It's very different than what Dissident has ever done. It's like
yeah, so
crazy.
this is it for those people who are watching, and if you're not, you can go on YouTube and click on this video and see it. But go ahead and tell us about this release. And like I said, the artwork itself is personally what will make me pick it up, because I'm a graphic designer first. I spent 6 years or so just doing graphic design right out of college. So I'm always gravitating towards. I know it's probably not the best method of how to pick a cigar, but if I like the band or the artwork or the box, I'm like, oh, I got to get it. I don't know if it's going to be good or not, but it's like I like that creative side that they at least put to the brand. So
But you just touched on something very important. And that's true. Whether you have smoked cigars for many, many years, or you are just now getting into the cigar industry, it is about the artwork, because you can walk into a humidor and it is absolutely overwhelming. I mean, there is just so many bands with so many colors and so many designs that, where do you even put your eyes? And I think that we can all relate to certain cigars based on their artwork. And just like I stated earlier, with Oveja Negra, I was drawn to that because they were one of the few that actually stepped outside of the box and chose to take that alternative route. So I think that is very, very important to pay attention to how you're designing something. And with the Molotov, we it's hard to explain, but Dissident was very much on the black, the red, and the white, and that was it. It was a word, and there was no pictures or anything to it. And I'm like, well, damn, if I'm gonna make my first cigar, I'm gonna go completely off the wall, and might as well just slap my face on it and do a white box instead. And so I just wanted to make sure that people understood that this is a new person behind this company, and you're going to see edgy things come out from this while also sticking to that dissident vibe. And another thing that's different is the blend is so far off from what has traditionally been dissident, because the cigars in the past have always been a lot of Nicaragua and Ecuador, those leaves. And with this, I've done Ometepe and the Esteli, Nicaraguan, Dominican. Like it's in there, and it's so different than any of the cigars previously. So the way it tastes, I'm just so excited about it, because Nicaragua as a whole, most people know that tobacco produces on a more peppery end. And this does not. This cigar, I would say, is a very smooth Habano, which is awesome for it still being Ometepe, which is Nicaraguan. Esteli is Nicaraguan, but they're just smooth blends. They're smooth tobaccos. And so I'm excited to see what people have to say about it, because it's just so like far left from, what Dissident has been. But I hope that people see that this is something new and exciting, and it's opening the door, like I said, for a lot more things to come. And you don't necessarily have to just stick in this one lane, with flavor profiles. So I'm excited to see what people say. We've had a number of people smoke it, and whether It could be because they love us. I don't know, but we've had nothing bad come from it. Everyone's loved it. And James and Angela, they smoked it from the very beginning, and they've smoked it all through the entire process, and they've loved it. So that, which is so reassuring to me. You know, you have this wonderful master blender in James, and he's like, this cigar is really good. And I'm like, yes.
And this
So,
is going to be available at PCA.
yep. So it's going to be offered to the retailers that are actually there. So they'll be first come, first serve. This is very limited. I only did 500 boxes on it. But once PCA is done, obviously, like any retailer, as long as they qualify, they can get this limited edition as well. So it's not just for PCA attendees.
And is that a pigtail on the cigar, or is it like what is going on with the cap?
Yeah, it's just it's not a pigtail. It's open ended, so it's just. There's actually a couple ways you can smoke it. If you wanted to, you could just light it up the way that it is, or you can just do your traditional cuts with it as well. So it's a Connecticut tip to it, and then it goes into more of a Habano wrapper on it.
Oh, cool! I think it looks,
Yeah.
like I said, the box art, like you said, going with the white box already sets it apart if it's in a humidor, because you're so used to seeing just the wooden boxes, or in this industry like black boxes or gold or whatever. So I think the color alone make it kind of really stand out
Yeah.
as something different. And then the cigar itself, being rolled like it is
Yeah. And I think it's, just from keeping my eyes wide open and, paying attention to what other brands do, I have found that, when I walk into a lounge, what attracts me is simple, and Crux has been wonderful with that. Nova has been wonderful with that. They stuck with simple and bold colors. And Dissident, we already walked into that with the simple, it's just black, red, and white. So that's very exciting to me, because it does make it stand out. And so when I made the decision to do this limited edition, I was like, it's got to be white. It's got to be white, because I mean, it's already like the design of it is black and red. I'm like, the box has got to be white. It's going to stand out so much. And so that's what we did. And I'm super stoked about it, especially because the flame is it's foil on it. So like it just pops. And in the end, those boxes, the lid's open and you're not going to see it anyway, but it's still white with the red lettering. And I'm pretty excited about it. I'm excited to hear what people have to say. So.
And could you just walk us through some of the other Dissident cigars that are available out there? Because I know like there's some people who might come across this and they may have never heard of Dissident before, and they might be a little bit intimidated, walking through the door saying, where do I start? Like, what's the profile of this one or something? So could you just explain maybe simply what the different cigars are, and what, if it's maybe meant for somebody who's a little bit more advanced or accustomed to cigars versus maybe something that's for somebody who's just getting started smoking cigars?
Yeah, so I'll start with the most mild, and that would be the Rave. That's a box press, and it's bigger. I've kind of put feelers out to see whether we should make that in a smaller Vitola as well. And honestly, we have gotten a lot of no's. People really, really like the size of that. And I wouldn't even put it in the Connecticut category. It's got a kick to it for being a Connecticut wrapper. And so that's why I mentioned earlier that I wanted to blend a true Connecticut cigar, because unfortunately, Josh and I have a large following, and that following wasn't through cigars, but people now want to try cigars. And all our cigars are like on the bolder end. And so it scares me, because I'm like, I don't want to push them away from, loving cigars. So that's why it's important to get a true Connecticut out there. But the first one on the lightest end would be the Rave. And I would say a new cigar smoker could smoke it, but they probably only get about halfway through and they want to put it down, just because it's bigger and it's a little bit bolder. I would put it more in the Habano category, even though it has a Connecticut wrapper. Soapbox, that one is wonderful. That is by far one of my favorite cigars in the line. It's Habano, full on flavor. It is just Oh my gosh, it is so good. Like whether you have it with coffee in the morning or with whiskey at night, it's just perfect. Like there is nothing bad to be said about that cigar. So that would be the next one. And then after that is the block, which actually smokes smoother than the soapbox, but that has a Maduro wrapper on it. And that's what I'm smoking right now. But I could smoke this, like I could have 3 of these in a row and I'm never going to be affected by it. It's a wonderful, smooth cigar. And I would say if you like your coffee black and you like to drink your whiskey neat, you could probably jump right into a block and be okay. I'd be safe to say that. Um, and then after the block, you have your rant and your tirade, which to me, those are hard for me to smoke. They're both smaller vitolas, which in my opinion is good because I'm just like, oh, this is my last one and only one for the day for both of those. So they're definitely Maduros. You know, they have that full Nicaraguan filler. I believe one also has Ecuadorian in it. So definitely the strongest. And then there's also the home, which that one was a limited release. So that one was 2019, and then they came out with a 2020 and a 2021. And I smoked my first 2019 a few weeks ago at Tinderbox in Haverford. And they gave me that 2019, and I couldn't believe that was the same cigar as the 21. I mean, it aged so smoothly, and I was able to smoke the whole thing because if I pick up a 21, it just kicks my ass. And I can't do it. I can get about halfway through, and I am done with that cigar. So you'll see the 21s and the 20s and the 19s still floating around. So yeah, that's those cigars. And we put a hold on the home. It's not going away. That's been a fan favorite for many years. But I wanted to focus on this LE. I thought that was important just because, you know, I'm a new owner and I want to show what I'm capable of. But the home will definitely be coming back out and it'll probably be by next year. So probably not a 22, but you'll see a 23 on that one.
Awesome. So I'm sure you're all excited about where you're going to take this brand in the future. Like you're probably
Oh
already
yeah.
having, like you said, you plans going into 2023, but probably 2024 and beyond, of
Oh yeah.
stuff that you want to do.
My brain is definitely faster than the abilities to make these cigars. So it's like I have like already about 5 ideas and I'm like, man, that's putting me definitely into 24 by the time these come
Mhm.
out and beyond, you know, because just producing the Connecticut alone, if I blend it, which will probably be as soon as we get back from PCA, you're not going to be seeing that for another 3-4 months, so it's just in playing the game, of getting in that wheel and producing these things and being aware of the time that it takes. So, I can do the Connecticut, and I'd say at maybe 3 months start blending another cigar. So that way they're kind of almost, back to back with a couple month break in there. So that's my goal, is to do it like that, but we'll see. We'll see how this goes.
At this point in the show, I usually like to turn it into a little bit of an advice column type thing, but I know you gave people a lot of good advice opening the show, so hopefully none of that overlaps. But usually the first question I like to ask people is, what's your why? So what motivates you to do what you do?
It's truthfully to prove to myself that I can, and to prove to other people that they can as well. Because those that have followed me for a long time know that I have been in multiple abusive relationships. My childhood was not the greatest. I was homeless with my kids at one point, trying to escape abuse. I have been witness to suicides, um, sexual abuse. I've been through the gamut of things. I've lived in shelters, all trying to escape terrible things and learn and be a single mom. And I succeeded. And I wasn't a failure for any of the things that I went through. I was a student learning all these things, and I succeeded. And somehow, even as a single mom, making just I figured out how to save money. I figured out how to not rely on child support. I figured out how to be there for my kids. I figured out how to learn and quickly go from the bottom of the barrel at my job all the way up to running an entire facility. I have absolutely pushed myself in every way possible while also hardest to love on myself, continue to be unique and to be who I am, not conform to society, because I refuse to do that. I don't know why. I am just one of those people that if you tell me not to do something, I'm going to do it. My face. So, and it's all because I just feel that it is so necessary, especially now in the time we're in, to make sure that you are authentic in who you are and to realize that it is okay to be who you are. It is okay to be in the skin that you're in, to be the color that you are, to love who you do, to be in the profession that you are, to believe in the things that you believe. To accept the people around you for not having those same beliefs. That is so important. That is what makes us who we are. And so, I look back at my life and I see all these things that I've gone through, and it just amazes me. And it makes me so proud of myself because I did it. And I'm still doing it. And you know what? There's still going to be failures. And that is okay. I'm going to cry. I'm going to stumble. I'm going to lose things, and I'm going to succeed. And even failure is succeeding in some way. And I think that is so important for people to understand. And if I am making people understand that, then I've reached my goal, because it's not about the money. It's about reaching people and getting them to understand their full potential, and that if I can do it, well, you sure as hell can do it too, because God damn it, I've been through so much and I have figured it out, and we just have to find it within ourselves to
The final question is, someone comes to you, they say that they have an idea for a business or a product they want to launch, and they know that you've successfully done that. What advice do you give that person in terms of how to get started?
put yourself out there. I would say that a good 95% of the people that I have met that have been successful, they are successful in some ways, the most vulnerable, have said things like, I don't understand, please explain. They have, if they failed at something or made a mistake, they openly say, I made this mistake. It was me that did this. I'm the one in this job that created this. And I'm sorry. Please show me a better way. To be vulnerable like that and admit to our faults, that goes a very, very long way. And people are so scared of doing that. And it's hard for me to understand that, because I have not lived that way in so long. Once you reach that point, you realize what success is, because the people that you surround yourself with are so willing to help you when you're honest and you're vulnerable. And the more people you know, the more advice you're going to give from different backgrounds and different ways of doing things. So you have to just put yourself out there and be willing to be the lowest person on the totem pole. That's, we all want to be the coolest person in the, the whatever in the group. No, man, put sure you're the one. You find a way to rise up. And that to me is hugely important, and that's how you grow success.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Before you go, I want you to give people a rundown of the different social media or websites they need to know in order to follow you and to follow Dissident.
Yeah, so the main one, I would say, Instagram. You can find me at Cynn Coburn, CynnCoburn on Instagram. Same thing for Facebook. For Dissident, it's Dissident Cigars _official. You can learn about Dissident Cigars by going to the Oa Negra website. And that's really the extent of it. Joshua Coburn. You can find him on Instagram as well. But it's very simple. It's very easy to find. And if anybody has any questions, if they can't find Dissident in their local lounge, just hit us up personally. You know, we will absolutely message you back. We're not strangers. We're not people that aren't going to talk to you. You know, we want to be there for people and to make sure that they know that we're available to them. So we're absolutely open to messages and to helping people in any way, even if that's just figuring out where Dissident Cigars are.
Awesome. Well, like I said, I think I learned so much from this hour conversation I've had with you, and I think people also learned so much. So thank you for being so open and sharing all that you did. I think it's important for us to hear about, like I said, the negativity sometimes, but also how to deal with that in our lives. Even more so, more important sometimes than even the cigar talk is just having real talk like that for people, because there's somebody listening out there that's going through stuff. And I think hearing
Especially now.
I think hearing what you had to say does resonate with a lot of people out there, and will resonate with people who listen to this in playback mode. So I appreciate you sharing, and I appreciate you coming on today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the Oveja Negra team at PCA in a couple. And well, it's not even a couple; it's like a week or so from now. So a little bit over. So see you all very soon in Vegas. But thank you for coming on. And like I said, hopefully we'll have to have you back on again. And now that we have all the intro stuff out of the way, we can get into some other stuff. I know you run a whole bunch of other companies and brands, so there's a lot to talk about. I'm sure that we can obviously fit into an hour, so we'll have to have you back on to talk about some of that stuff in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
For those people who are watching on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, make sure you hit that like button or subscribe button to be notified anytime we produce new content. Also, if you're listening to this on any of the podcasting platforms, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and also leave a review to let us know what you like from this episode or what ways we can improve. Any feedback is always appreciated. I want to thank you all for watching, and I want to thank our guests again for coming on. And we have another show. Actually, it was a last minute addition to this week. So we have another strong female figure. We have Lisette Perez Carrillo from EP Carrillo on Thursday. So that will be another exciting show for those of you who are watching live. You can put that on your calendar for Thursday at 5:30. And if you miss any part of this episode, it will be on deepcutslive.com. It's also on YouTube. And like I said, the audio is on all the podcasting, or will be by the end of tonight, hopefully, on all the podcasting platforms. So thank you for watching. And thank you, Cynn, again for coming on. And I look forward to seeing you in person and off a screen. I want to, until next time, everybody.
Have a good night.